its library. I'm just having a drink by myself. I know that sounds like a loser's hobby, but I'm just enjoying my company. So, before you call me a loser, I bet you can't even order to a bar by yourself. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But made this ramp to explore by yourself. And it's so nice here actually. Super chill. And yeah. Hi guys, I just got home from school and it's just a chill day. I only had 2 classes. One was on site, the other was online. And right now I'm already in my house clothes and I'm supposed to be prepping myself for an exam tomorrow, but I decided, you know what, I'm gonna sit here and talk about the books that I've been loving from the past few months instead of studying. I'll do that later. But moving on, I want to share with you guys some of the books that I have been loving from my most recent reads from the past 3 months, January, February, and March, and books that I am currently reading. So I think I've already shared with you guys my thoughts on Lolly Alderson's Everything I Know About Love and Maria Resa's How to Stand Up to a Dictatorship. So I'm not going to be giving a deep insight on those 2 books anymore. I'm gonna be focusing on other books that I haven't shared yet here. So to start, I'm gonna start with my most recent read. Let's start off with R.F. Kuang's Babel that I just finished 2 weeks ago, and I must say I wasn't really able to put this book down for a reason, and it's been such a long time since I've felt this way with a fantasy book. I am somebody who doesn't really like reading much of the fantasy genre, but this really caught my attention, and the way Kuang played with words for her to not need to give any background context on the characters, but just with these choice of words you can already tell the kind of background these characters have. And I think that's a really smart move for her, because I don't know if it was really her goal to make this into just one book, because other books I believe have a difficult time of trying to congest a really lengthy story in one book. And honestly, the world building for Babel was quite seamless, considering the many character developments that the characters went through, and for it all to fit in one single story, it's amazing for a writer to do, I believe. And honestly, it was so impactful. As somebody who likes writing myself, how she was able to highlight the significance of words, of translation, and all the magic of it. It was just super nice. Next is, wait, it's gonna take a while to give you guys a glimpse of the cover because I am using my Kindle. This is my most recent read. It's called In the Miso Soup by Ryu Murakami. This is the cover. It's a Japanese book that was translated by, I forgot the name of the translator. It's marketed as a thriller book according to the synopsis that I've read on the internet and the genre that is written down there. But to be quite honest, during the duration of the story, I couldn't feel that thrilling emotion, or maybe it's just because I am someone who's consumed a lot of thriller and horror media, which is why I don't know, my emotions didn't really spike up for it to be thrilling. But aside from that, I was still super happy with this book because I just like the plot of it. It's kind of unique for me. This book is about a sex worker tour guide in Japan, and I think it's a really, I don't know what is the author's intention for writing this book, but personally I feel like the author wrote this book with the thought of critiquing with critiquing his own culture, and also how I like how it discusses the themes of glorification of culture and, the the fetishization of Japanese culture and that kind of stuff. It's all here. And if you're someone who likes anime and you deeply immerse yourself in it, I advise you guys to give this a good read. Not just anime, maybe anything in the realm of Japanese culture, because I do believe that there is this superficial idea towards Japan that it's a country that is super fascinating, and it's modeled like something super fascinating that you just have to have a taste of it. And Ryu explores that idea by delving into the topics that at one side of the coin is known stuff about Japan, like banal stuff, but on the other side of the coin are layers of their culture that also tells a bit about I forgot the term taboo. Okay, this book delves into the taboo stuff within Japan and not just the good stuff about it. I think this book is not only a representation of the glorification of a specific culture, which in this case is Japan, but also other cultures, like the very idea of fetishizing a specific culture that is super foreign to other nationalities out there, that we tend to like paint a certain culture or a specific country into a certain label or descriptions that matches the way it's presented within the media, and it overshadows the history and the deeper issues that this specific culture actually has. So yeah, I would really recommend this for anybody out there that enjoys stories that explores those ideas that I've just mentioned. And if you're someone who also likes an unreliable and an annoying narrator, then I also advise you to read this. Another one of my recent reads, this is definitely a new favorite of mine, An Apprenticeship or The Book of Pleasures by Clarice Lispector. And I'm gonna read you guys the specific review that I wrote on Goodreads because I think it summarizes what I really feel about this book. And I wrote there, as the book progressed, I found myself seeing Ulysses, one of the main characters, Ulysses' perception of Lori as condescending. I guess it was like an angry feeling I would get from witnessing a friend blindly follow their man's advice. But upon reaching the end of the book, I realized Ulysses himself was just as lost as Lori was too. And it was through their relationship that they found a humble way of being, which is embracing the state of living as an apprentice of life's mightiness, as the author emphasizes continuously in describing life. I had no prior idea on who Clarice Lispector was before I got into this book. I didn't even know that this was like somewhere near the classics. And when I picked this up, I didn't expect to fully commit to it from the first few pages because the kind of vocabulary the author uses can be quite intimidating, especially for individuals like me who do not really consume classic books. The language for me at first was very intimidating, But as the pages progressed, I found myself more and more enjoying Clarice's way of telling a story. And I do think that this is a character-driven book rather than a plot-driven one. I can also resonate with other reviews regards to this book that they found the man in this book to be really condescending, which I also found myself feeling a lot throughout the book. But as the book progresses, you'll eventually realize that I don't think that was really the main point of the author in writing this book. I think what her focus really was the message and the content of the kind of advices that the man was giving the woman, and the way they just toss advices to one another, how they try to be an apprentice of life itself. And honestly, this really brought me into a new perspective regarding living in the present, because I do think we live in the present super lightly, but I do think this book really gives so much more depth into that statement. And if you're someone who, wants to be enlightened more on how do you maximize living in the present, how do you enlighten yourself in living despite the hindrances and challenges that we face every day, then I think you should read this book. When I finished this book, because I don't know, I just felt that sense of comfort from it. I'm actually reading another of Clarice's book, which is Agua Viva, and it's a book about just her stream of consciousness. It's not really about anything. And honestly, Clarice just has a way with her words. And there are just these type of authors that whatever they write make sense or not. If you're someone who really loves their work, if you're someone who already has this idea that I love her work, I love her way with words, then you're super receptive with whatever he or she writes down. And I think that is just the kind of attitude I have with her works right now. So I can definitely see myself enjoying more of her works in the future. It's the same kind of feeling I'm getting with Rebecca Kwong. Next is Yellowface by R.F. Kwong again. This was the first book I have ever read from her before I delved into Babel. I super enjoyed it. I also couldn't stop myself from constantly picking it up because I was super nervous in getting into it, because there's a lot of mixed reviews with it, and a lot of people DNF'd it just because of the reason of they didn't like the main character. We have an unlikable narrator here, we have an unlikable protagonist here, but for me, I'm a huge sucker for stories with a very unlikable character as the main protagonist. And I love how this story is just really entirely in her perspective, so we really don't have a perspective on the other side of the story. And I also love how, because this story is about Athena, no, sorry, this is about June, a writer who steals ideas from her dead friend Athena, and she justifies it constantly in the book by saying that she's just making the work of her friend better, stuff like that. And honestly, throughout the book, she's just justifying her stealing her friend's work, and you just see somebody slowly digging their own grave more deeply and deeply throughout the book as the story progresses. And I love stories like those, so I super love this. I do think the ending could have been more, smoother, but that's just really my problem. But I don't have any other problem whatsoever with the way other aspects of the stories were explored and developed. I also love the language used here, very modern and very contemporary, I would say, because I don't know, it's just super modern, super Gen Z, I would say. So yeah, I also highly recommend this if you're someone who is in a book slump. I think this is the kind of book that's gonna help you get back into reading as well. Next is Goodbye Tsugumi by Banana Yoshimoto. I've also read Yoshimoto's Kitchen, and I'm just gonna be talking about this more than Kitchen because I actually love this more than Kitchen. I also loved Kitchen, but I just like this more. Anyway, Goodbye Tsugumi is yet again another story with an unlikable character. but the story is not told in the perspective of the unlikable character. It's told from a third person perspective, which is the cousin of that unlikable character. So it gives you a kind of third person perspective of the character that's not likable. But I like how throughout the book we're put into the same journey as the cousin that witnesses her cousin's character, well, not really a character development, but you know, a deeper layer within the story that she thought there only was in the surface level of her cousin. And I actually super love this book. It's really just about life. It's slice of life. It's something that you want to take with you on the beach, on the bus, on the train, in your commute to work. It's that kind of stuff. And if you're someone who also enjoys a story that explores a character's layers in a third person perspective, and I also highly recommend this book. Next is, this is the last one. This is Sally Rooney's Beautiful World, Where Are You? I've read most of Rooney's works, Normal People, Conversation with Friends, this one, and I'm planning on reading Intermezzo soon. And I don't know, for some reason I'm already getting kind of a pattern with Rooney's way of setting characters up, but there's still a slight hint of difference with the way she presents these characters and their stories. Because I guess if you're someone who's read quite a few of her works, you know what kind of story you're probably getting. You know what kind of experience you're probably getting into this story. But at the same time, Rooney has a way of just slapping you with a kind of pain differently. It's just the same kind of pain, but a different method, really. I actually love this. I would dare say that this is my favorite work of hers compared to her past works. Normal People will always have an impact with me, but it just really hit different. And if you're someone who likes stories that is a slow burn, but at the same time dives into an introspective reflection of your individual life, then you're gonna love this book, because it's the kind of story that you can't help but put yourself in the shoes of that character, and then you just look back into your own life as well, and then 1 minute later you're already crying, you're already just looking at your wall, and you're just like, I want to make special mention to a manga that I've read, which is entitled Sayonara Eri, or Goodbye Eri. I'm gonna consider this still a book because I just want to give this manga a special mention because it really had an impact with me personally, with my creative side. And if you're someone who is in a huge slump in your craft and in your creative juices, I highly recommend this book because it gives you a perspective on what is your purpose for creating. And it's actually a story about how do I say it without spoiling the whole story, just really general gist of it. It's a story about this kid filming her mother's last moments, and he tries to make a movie out of it because he wants to show it to everyone. That's just what I'm gonna say. It doesn't sound interesting in one sentence, but I tell you, this is just a short read. It's gonna literally take you not even 20 minutes to finish this because it's a one-shot manga. And honestly, it's this manga that got me into Fujimoto's works, because I read this after I watched Look Back, the anime movie. And I don't know, Fujimoto's method of storytelling is just, it's super sincere because it largely comes from his own life, and you can really feel it with his stories. You can really feel it come from his heart, which is why you won't have a difficult time relating with his stories, his manga, and his anime, just Chainsaw Man. So yeah, I just wanted to put this out there because I do feel like this is really a kind of story that you don't want to miss in your life, especially if you're someone who, again, as I mentioned earlier, is going through a slump in your creative area in your life right now. So yeah, so those are the recent books that I've been reading, and just some books that I've been reading and books that I recommend. I can't really remember everything about all the books that I've read, so forgive me if I just said things at the top of my head, and if this comes across a little bit disorganized, because I don't know, I don't really have a detailed Bible of the things that I observed from these books, but the thoughts and insights that I gave earlier with regards to the previous books that I mentioned were all sincere, and it all came from my mind, my heart, and my reviews on Goodreads. And yeah, that's it. Those are my reads lately for 2025, and here's to more reading. Here's to more good books and good stories that I can also relate my own life and my own story with as well. So yeah, hope you also got a good recommendation from this.